right, welcome everyone to the Board of County Commissioners business meeting for Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Board will recognize for the purposes of an invocation, Reverend Darren Kessler.
Thank you. Please join with me, please, in prayer. A prayer from St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there's hatred, let us sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. And Father, we do pray that for today and for this meeting, for each person who will be speaking, representing. And I pray this upon the commissioners. Wisdom for them as they speak with humility. For the greatest good, Lord, of this community, thank you that we could pray this, realizing your sovereignty above us all. In your name, Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend, once again for bringing forward your words of grace and wisdom. Thank you very much. If everyone will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda.
Yes, sir. The county attorney's office has reviewed all items on the agenda. You have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters.
Thank you, Counselor. Commissioners, any disclosures for any items on this agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
No.
Nor do I. Turning to the first part of our agenda, ceremonies and proclamations, we have a resolution in support of National Crime Victims' Rights Week coming from the District Attorney's Office. I believe this would be Assistant District Attorney Nate Marsh.
It's Senior Deputy, but thank you for the promotion. Thank you, thank you.
You know, George, some guys you just can't help, huh?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Nate Marsh. I'm a Senior Deputy District Attorney in the 23rd Judicial District, and in a state that is continually picking offenders over victims, I'm proud to live and work in Douglas County, where we still support victims of crime. And as such, I have a resolution for your consideration. This is a resolution in support of National Crime Victim Rights Week. Whereas in 1982, the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to more equitable and supportive responses to victims. And whereas Crime Victims' Rights Acts passed in Colorado and at the federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process. And whereas crime impacts individuals and families across all backgrounds, leaving lasting emotional, physical, and financial effects, demanding a compassionate, community-focused response. And whereas from April 19th through the 25th of 2026, communities nationwide will observe National Crime Victims' Rights Week under the theme, Listen, Act, Advocate, Protect Victims, Serve Communities, calling for collective commitment to supporting victims. And whereas victim service providers, criminal justice professionals, and community members must work collaboratively to ensure services are trauma-informed, accessible, and culturally responsive. And whereas meaningful support begins when we listen, creating safe spaces that ensure survivors are heard, believed, and respected. And whereas listening must lead to action, providing trauma-informed services, raising awareness, reducing system barriers, and connecting victims with critical resources. And whereas we are called to advocate, upholding survivors' rights, amplifying their voices in justice processes, and championing for change that fosters healing and safety. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an important moment to recommit local efforts by asking, how will we listen, act, advocate, and protect throughout the year? And whereas the Douglas County community stands united in delivering compassionate support, promoting justice, and reinforcing the dignity of every individual affected by crime. And whereas, this is the hope there that it'll pass, the Douglas County Commissioners recognize National Crime Victims' Rights Week expressing profound gratitude to the survivors, advocates, and professionals working tirelessly to ensure justice, healing, and safety for all. And Commissioners, I believe that there are representatives from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Covered Colorado, and from Silenced to Saved that are present to offer comment on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Counselor. From the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and it looks like the Sheriff, Darren Weekly.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next week, April 19th through the 25th, we celebrate National Victims' Rights Week. And in law enforcement, our job is often measured about catching bad guys and statistics and putting them in jail. But what we are truly measured by is how we treat our victims. We are joined by agencies across the country to reaffirm our commitment to victims in our community and to ensure that they are not an afterthought in our criminal justice system, as well as down at the legislature at our state capitol. Our Victims Assistance Unit is the bridge between the initial trauma of crime and the long-term path to justice. The dedicated professionals that we have both paid professionals as well as our on-call victim advocates that respond to calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, oftentimes shortly after our deputies make the scene safe. They provide immediate emotional support, safety planning, and resources, and they ensure that victims are informed of their rights under the Victims' Rights Act, or VRA, including the right to be heard, the right to be informed of court proceedings, and the right to seek restitution from the offenders. To the victims in our community, we see you, we hear you, and we will continue to advocate for your dignity and your rights every single day.
Thank you, Sheriff. People of Douglas County are proud of you. Covered Colorado.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for recognizing National Crime Victims' Rights Week. My name is Jessica Winslow, and I'm here on behalf of Covered Colorado. And so Covered is a nonprofit located in this beautiful county of Douglas County. We serve survivors of human trafficking by providing them long-term support, including safe housing, case management, access to critical services, so survivors can rebuild safe and independent lives. This week reminds us that survivors deserve dignity, choice, and community support. Your recognition today sends a powerful message to this community. We thank you for everything that you do. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, ma'am, for everything you do. Very much appreciated. And from Silence to Saved. We almost need to make Ms. Goodrich a member of staff. We see her so much.
You guys are just doing so much. I'm just here all the time. My name is Janelle Goodrich, and I am the founding executive director from Silence to Save, fondly called FSTS. And we don't just serve Douglas County victims, but we serve many Douglas County victims. And I just want to thank Douglas County for all of the things that they do for victims, not just a proclamation for taking a stand to say that you recognize this, but all the things you do in this room and outside of this room to help make a stand to bolster laws for holding offenders accountable and to partner with everyone that helps do that in a collective manner. So from Silence to Saved, we know that healing begins the moment a survivor is believed. This year's theme, which is Listen, Act, Advocate, reflects exactly what our mission stands for, which is ensuring survivors are heard, seen, and supported. National Crime Victims' Rights Week is a powerful reminder that when we take meaningful action and advocate for survivors' voices, especially in spaces where they have been silenced, we turn silence into hope and survival into healing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, that's who we had scheduled for speaking in favor of this resolution. How would the board like to take action?
Well, Mr. Chair, first and foremost, tremendous thanks to our guest speakers today. We live in a county that is deeply dedicated to public safety, and the elected leaders, including DA George Brockler and The Sheriff, Darren Weekly, are deeply committed to your safety on a daily basis and in supporting the rights of victims, not just for a week, but throughout the entire year. This board shares that perspective and that outlook. Again, not just with proclamations and, things in the ground, pinwheels, they're all important. We love those symbolic representations of those that are encountering difficulties, but we really believe in taking action. This is a county that doesn't wait to do great. And this last year alone, we made a decision to approve a significant increase in funding for prosecutors, for ICAC professionals, that's Internet Crimes Against Children, for more detectives in the sheriff's office, to go after these bad guys. And we're not messing around in Douglas County. We know that this is a place where quality of life comes first, and that begins with keeping you and your families safe. That's what I go to bed at night, every night, thinking about: how do we keep this county safe? And I'm so thankful to be working alongside such phenomenal colleagues like Commissioner Van Winkle and Commissioner Teal, and this dedicated staff who also daily support that public safety message. We are running a bill this year, and thanks to the amazing Janelle Goodrich for the heart, the inspiration, the hard work behind this legislation. She's the one that came to us and said, did you know that in the state of Colorado, you can get probation for solicitation of a child? Probation, you can get a slap on the hand. So for us, when we hear that as elected officials, we don't take that casually, and we are running a bill to make sure that those guys go to prison. And it's taken a lot of work. We'll see where it goes. I don't want to get ahead of it. It is headed to appropriations on Friday. But that is something we're working on as a team with a lot of great district attorneys, members of law enforcement, people that really care about protecting kids, including these awesome nonprofits. We also opened up our new domestic violence shelter, which now has already taken care of so many women and children that have had to flee really difficult circumstances. And we know it looks different in Douglas County. Sometimes there's economic duress. People have a lot of resources here. It's tough to leave an abuser if you feel like your home, your finances, your mortgage is at risk. So this Board of County Commissioners has established this confidential location. We're not going to tell you where it's at, unless, of course, you are a victim, and then we'll make sure you get there and get everything you need. But that commitment to your safety is huge. And again, I'm proud that this county takes action, and it's not just a proclamation. But, Mr. Chair, I will be fully in support of this proclamation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion?
Well, this is a topic that I don't think a single day goes by all year long that we're not talking about being tough on crime, supporting justice, and supporting the victims of crime. I know it's near and dear to the heart of all three commissioners up here today, and it's something that we focus on all the time. So I know a lot of governments, a lot of counties, it may just be, and I know in the state legislature, it's a once-a-day thing that you spend 5 minutes on and you check the box and move on. But for us, it is near to our hearts, and we, as Commissioner Layden laid out the specifics of what we're doing, and I won't repeat that, but the very good work we're doing to make sure that Douglas County is among the safest places to raise a family, to live, and grow old, and that we are protecting the victims. But today, it's a very small a measure for us to recognize those things, recognize the challenges that victims face every day after a crime is committed, and also recognizing the resilience of the survivors of crime and how those victims of crime put the pieces of their life back together, whether it's monetary or whether it's something much harder to deal with. So always keep in mind the resilience of our survivors. And also, I'm incredibly proud of the relationship we have with our sheriff's office, with Sheriff Darren Weekly, who does just a fantastic job. I think he's the best sheriff in the entire nation, and it is such a blessing and honor to be able to work with him and his tremendous team in our Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and also the brand new 23rd Judicial District led by George Brockler. That was a dream many years ago that we were able to pass a bill. At the time I was a state representative, it was my first bill of the year, and one of the biggest bills I've ever passed, but it was coming from right here at this dais is where that dream came from. Come to fruition just over a year ago, and since then, again, wonderful relationship between us and our 23rd Judicial District, which is making a difference. Our crime is down in Douglas County, And it's in no small part because we have our own judicial district that is being governed by our Douglas County principals. So that collaboration, let us keep it moving forward, not just with law enforcement in the 23rd Judicial District, but the legal professionals, with the victim rights groups that we work so closely with. I'm just proud of how, you know, sometimes the best thing we can do is bring people together, but this is one area where it feels like every single day we're touching on one of the areas and trying just to add support. Countywide, we've actually, in many departments across the county, at least in the 1 year and 3 months that I've been on the job here, we've reduced headcount for a lot of our departments, and that is very purposeful to be able to keep headcount level across the board, but also boosting up that 23rd Judicial District, boosting up the Sheriff's Office when and how possible. So, gentlemen, let's keep up the good work, and my thanks to all those who are willing to partner with us and tell us, I think almost all the meetings we say, what do you need? How can we make your job better? How can we make you more effective when it comes to supporting victims of crime? And very much appreciate that openness, and then the openness of the commissioners, my partners here, to say, well, let's find a way to get that done. So thank you. I'm glad we're taking this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. 28 years ago, in August of that year, I left the United States military. I was an Army officer and moved back to Colorado, where I grew up, and my wife grew up with my wife and our 2-year-old daughter. And initially, my plan was to return home to my home county of Weld. And we ended up crashing at my in-laws' place up in Castle Pines. That's where my in-laws had lived for not quite a decade. And initially, this was just a temporary stop for me. And more and more, I became aware of what it was like to live here in Douglas County. More and more, I became aware of kind of the policies and the culture here in Douglas County. And at one point in time, my wife suggested, maybe we should just stay here. And one of the reasons why, as she pointed out, she had done a little bit of volunteering with, back then, JD 18, the Judicial District, working for a guy named Jim Peters, volunteering as a victim's advocate. And it was a calling she had to, you know, give back to what we thought was just going to be our temporary community. And the fact, the dedication that this county had to the rights of victims, not only to enforcing the law, not only to ensuring law and order was kept, but that victims of crime had rights and they deserved advocacy. And the recognition that they had been wronged and we were all going to come together as a society to try to make it right. That changed my attitude about, is this a temporary place, just a stop in what was going to be a longer journey, or is this home? I can't tell you how proud I am that we've got the DA here, my fellow Army officer, veteran, Mr. Brockler. I can't tell you how proud I am. We've got our sheriff here today. I see a police chief right there. I see so many members of law enforcement here, and so many members of our command staff with our sheriff's department here, coming together to, once again state that when victims of crime find themselves in that situation, we as a society are on their side. They have rights. And I'm so happy that this resolution is before us. I, for one, plan on voting yes in favor of adopting this resolution. And so I turn back to my colleagues. Colleagues, we have a resolution that's been presented before us. What action do we care to take?
Well, Mr. Chair, well said, both of you. And if it does please the board, I will make a motion to approve a resolution in support of National Crime Victims' Rights Week.
Okay. I'll second the motion, proudly.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that resolution is adopted. I think it's entirely appropriate that we would applaud such a resolution here in Douglas County.
Would you like a photo? Do you want a picture?
I don't know. Can we say no to Drew at least once for no photo? No, they convinced me, Drew. We're going to do a photo. Let's go ahead. Can we get the district attorney? Can the sheriff join us? And sheriff, any member of your staff you would like to have join us, please come forward. And DA, any member of your staff, please come forward and join us. You can even get that, what is it, deputy assistant special district attorney. He didn't want the promotion, so he's obviously got no ambition. He won't be looking for another job anytime soon, I'm sure.
Grab the nonprofits.
Of course. And of course, Silence to Saved, Covered Colorado. I can't stand in the middle. I stand there all the time. Hey man, you didn't compliment my shoes. Well, that's true. They're classic. Count three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got one more. That's all right. Our next item is another resolution proclaiming April 2026 as Volunteer Month. Dan Avery, Deputy County Manager, presenting.
Commissioners, good afternoon. I'm pleased to introduce this resolution, and I'm pleased to be joined by a room full of volunteers, some of whom I suspect we will hear from after I introduce the resolution. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. The county has a variety of volunteer opportunities available throughout the county. There are 10 opportunities in the month of April, all of which can be found at douglasvolunteers.com, with the flagship opportunity being our Dougnad Arbor Day tree planting event on Friday, April 24th. Elsewhere in the county, Castle Rock has trail cleanup events at Hangman's Gulch this weekend, an Arbor Day tree planting event at Philip S. Miller Park and Cobblestone Parks on the 24th and 27th respectively, and a trail maintenance event on the 25th. Over in Parker, there's an Arbor Day event on April 25th at Discovery Park, and Highlands Ranch Community Association is hosting a volunteer fair on the 23rd at Northridge Recreation Center, and their Big Help Arbor Day event on the 25th in the Backcountry Wilderness area. With that introduction, I will read the resolution into the record, and then we'll hear from some of the volunteers in the room. The resolution provides that whereas volunteering is a cornerstone of strong communities fostering civic engagement, strengthening social bonds, and improving the quality of life for all residents, and whereas on April 20th, 1974, President Richard Nixon established National Volunteer Week in recognition to recognize and celebrate the invaluable contributions of volunteers across the United States, before it was expanded to a month-long celebration in 1990 by President George H.W. Bush. And whereas more than 28% of Americans formally volunteer through organizations, collectively giving almost 5 billion hours of service annually, equating to an economic impact of $167.2 billion. And whereas hundreds of volunteers in Douglas County dedicate their time and effort to numerous causes, including spending countless hours maintaining, monitoring, protecting, and improving our beautiful parks, trails, and open spaces, donating time and expertise on one of the many advisory boards and commissions, or otherwise freely giving time and talents to serve search and rescue, community safety and victims advocates roles, aging resources, collaborative foster care, and the fair and rodeo. They support countless nonprofit organizations and programs. Whereas through their time and talents and dedication, volunteers play a critical role in making Douglas County a great place to live, fostering unity, resilience, and a spirit of generosity. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Douglas, Colorado does hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 as Volunteer Month, recognizing and celebrating the invaluable contributions of volunteers across the country. And be it further resolved that all residents, businesses, schools, and organizations are encouraged to support, promote, and participate in volunteer activities throughout the month of April and beyond, fostering a culture of service and collective impact that strengthens our county and its future. We ask that this be passed and adopted this day of April, this 14th day of April. As I indicated, I am joined by representatives from a variety of volunteer entities here in Douglas County, including some of our advisory boards and commissions, the Noxious Weed Advisory Council, the Parks Advisory Board, Planning and Water Commissions, members of the Senior and Cultural Councils, representatives of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office Community Service Volunteer Group, Search and Rescue, Open Space and Natural Resources Volunteer Groups, Fair and Rodeo, Public Works Volunteers, and the Douglas County Historic Preservation and Repository Groups. So with that introduction, I will step away and make room for these fine folks.
Dan, the board would ask you, just go ahead and call them up.
All right.
Call up each group at a time.
I know we have first representatives from our Parks Department to speak on behalf of the Parks Advisory Board.
Very good.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Luke Thornton. I'm the Parks Program Coordinator, and I have the privilege of coordinating our Parks Volunteer Program. And I wanted to speak on behalf of the Advisory Board and our volunteers who could not be present today, but we're so incredibly thankful to the hundreds of volunteers that have dedicated their time and sweat to the Parks and Recreation Division. They've planted hundreds of trees, eradicated thousands of noxious weeds, collected dozens of bags of trash, and so much more that I won't take the time to list. But we specifically want to thank Cherry Hills Community Church, American Family Insurance, and the Douglas County School District for their partnerships over the years that have made the Parks Volunteer Program so successful. And additionally, I would be remiss if I didn't re-emphasize that the Doug Nad Arbor Day event is happening next week on the 24th. We'd love for anyone in this room to be there. The sign up is at douglasvolunteers.com for anyone who wants to come out and help us plant trees on Arbor Day. It's going to be great. And then finally, I want to thank the volunteer members of our Parks Advisory Board who provide thoughtful guidance and leadership. Those members is our Chair, Amanda Medimlia, Vice Chair, Lynn Moffitt, Carissa Smaldones, Christy Thomas, Sean Duffy, Colin Cachone, and Jessica Johnson. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Luke. And Dan, please welcome forward the next volunteer group.
All right, we have representatives of volunteer groups associated with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and Search and Rescue. Takes Sheriff's Office volunteers first.
I don't know. This guy doesn't look like a volunteer for the Sheriff's Department.
They won't come up here. Come on up. Sir, everybody come on up. Commissioners, we would not be able to provide the services that we provide to our community without of our volunteers. Our community safety volunteers, our volunteers from the Office of Emergency Management, Search and Rescue, our victim advocates. The Sheriff's Office alone has over 200 volunteers that serve throughout this community, and oftentimes responding 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, it doesn't matter. We simply do it better than others, and everybody wants to come to work for us. And the reason they want to come to work for us is because they want to serve their community. But I can't overstate enough how good our volunteers are, how many hours they dedicate. Our community safety volunteers alone have mounted up 336,000 hours of service to the Douglas County community with an economic value of $11.7 million of savings to the taxpayers of our community. This is just a snapshot of the 200 volunteers that we have serving throughout the Douglas County community. So thank you for acknowledging the hard work, and it's good that they know and that they see that that work does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, everybody. Appreciate your service. Dan, who would we like to hear from next?
We have representatives from the Fair and Rodeo Board, if any of them would like to speak.
Dean, good to see you here again.
Good to see you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity. And thank you for recognizing the tremendous effort that volunteers give to make the Fair and Rodeo the success and the preeminent event that it is in Douglas County. It would not happen without the tremendous support of over 200 volunteers, from 21 Fair Board directors to the number of associate members and the volunteers that make that 10-day event happen annually in Douglas County. So thank you for your recognition of that. Thank you to all of the volunteers who enabled the Fair and Rodeo to happen, and we appreciate it, and let's rodeo.
There you go. Thank you, Dean.
Would any representatives from Aging Resources of Douglas County and the Seniors Council wish to speak? We also have representatives from the Open Space Department and the Open Space Advisory Council.
It's a good thing Jay stepped forward, otherwise I'd just call him up.
If you're here representing the Open Space Program, can you wave your hand? Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Howdy, Commissioners, Mr. County Attorney, Mr. County Manager. My name is Jay Sage, and as chairperson of the Open Space Advisory Committee, I'm here to turn the tables on you. Rather than accepting your congratulations, I'm here to thank the county for letting me and my colleagues volunteer for the Open Space Program for the past 30 years. I'm one of the hundreds of Douglas County volunteers who've caught the passion bug, and luckily that's one bug the naturalists haven't tried to eradicate. But here's the secret. While we're out there working with the wonderful staff, you're basically providing us with free therapy. You're boosting our mental health, keeping our hearts pumping, and giving us a group of like-minded individuals to belong to. We've managed to wrangle three of our team leaders from our 10 programs to give us an inside scoop of their favorite programs. Sandy Steveness will be representing the geology, naturalists, and bluebirds. Basically, she's the Swiss Army knife of volunteers. Jerry Roth will be handling the orchard program, and expect some fruitful conversation. And finally, Rick Williams will send the discussion into orbit, talking about the astronomy program. So we'll have Sandy come up first.
We can always count on Jay for the dad jokes portion of the presentation. Ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Sandy Stavnis, and I volunteer with several programs across the county, including a geology team of 4 other geologists that were all retired. And since we retired, we found out that learning about the geology of Douglas County has been something none of us really knew much about. And in learning it, it's just been an amazing story to tell. So we offer field trips to Sandstone Ranch to show people in the county some of the oldest rocks in the county, starting with the 1.1 billion year old Pikes Peak granite, which forms the mountains behind us, as well as taking them around the county to look at the mesas and buttes, and talk about some of the youngest rocks in the county, which are about 37 million years old. And to a geologist, that's yesterday, by the way. But it's been a great program to be able to get people out close and personal with the rocks in the county and touch them, and it's quite a unique place, Douglas County, for geology. The other program that I volunteer with is the bluebird monitoring program, which has been around for quite some time. And bluebirds are just a special bird species that everybody loves to see a bluebird. They bring spring, they're signs of hope. But in the early 1900s, they were threatened and almost on the verge of extinction because of loss of habitat, and conservation efforts help to bring them back. And in Douglas County, we bring them back through monitoring them as well as providing nest boxes for them to nest in. And since conservation efforts have occurred, the population has come back, and so you see them all over the place. There are approximately 10 routes in the county, all on open spaces, which is fantastic, and we have 60 to 80 volunteers that help us monitor these bluebirds every week during breeding season. So those two programs have rejuvenated my life in retirement, and I'm just really thankful to the county to be able to be part of them. I'm thankful to you for supporting the open space programs.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Jay, did you have more members of the open space program?
Jeff Raw? We're very formal here.
I can tell.
Thank you. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Hidden Mesa and myself. I'm a retired landscape contractor and tree grower. This is my 16th year of volunteering at Hidden Mesa Orchard. I started working with Andy Howe in developing the research orchard, and now put my efforts more into the vegetable garden. We've done a lot of trials on over 500 different kinds of plants, nuts, and fruit to find out what grows well in Douglas County. This information's great for any county resident that's interested in edible landscapes. In addition to the research orchard, 14 years ago, we set up a vegetable garden. In a true community partnership, we decided to donate all the vegetables that we grow to the Parker Task Force Food Bank. So in the last 14 years, we've added almost 19 tons of fresh produce to the Parker Task Force. That's an average of 2,800 pounds of organic produce grown by our volunteers every year. We also grow fruits, especially strawberries, where the volunteers trial different varieties and growing methods. We also have a very nice, beautiful native plant garden out in the parking lot. If you've ever been to Hidden Mesa Open Space, and all the tours we give on these different areas are extremely educational and beneficial to the Douglas County residents. For me, the opportunity to work alongside smiling, happy volunteers is tremendous. It gives us so much synergy and camaraderie. It's really incredible. We're lucky to do what we do and be able to affect people's lives by donating all that produce to help people. Thanks, Douglas County Open Space, for letting us do what we do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And by the way, the blossoms have not yet died on the peach tree on top of Antelope Ridge, so fingers crossed. Peaches growing in South Castle Rock this year. Sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rick Williams. I'm a 49-year resident of Douglas County. I've watched a lot of growth in that time period. Since I've retired, I've become involved in volunteering with the Open Space Program, both as a geologist, and I'm also a member of the Denver Astronomical Society and assist with some of the activities there. What I realized when I began volunteering for this, I knew I loved the outside, but when I got to go out and experience time in the places that we have here in Douglas County, I found a sense of joy, I found a sense of peace, but most importantly, I found a sense of awe, because we live in a very special place, geologically, from the astronomy perspective, and I began to recognize that. And it's an awe, much like we heard last week from the astronauts in Artemis 2 passing around the backside of the moon, looking at the dark side of the moon. Holy smoke. Well, it turns out one of the best places to look at the moon or any other celestial object you want around here is in Douglas County, because we are uniquely blessed with more dark sky. Now, 49 years ago, I could walk out anywhere in Castle Rock or where I live now and look up, and there was the Milky Way and all sorts of wonderful objects in the sky. But that's gotten more restricted because of all the growth and the light that we see from Colorado Springs and Denver. But we still have dark sky here in Douglas County, and particularly over on the west side of the county by Sandstone Ranch, there's fabulous, one of the best sites for viewing these objects at night. And I say that to you because we need to protect that dark sky, and we're looking at it's becoming precious and valuable. Breckenridge just turns itself into a dark sky community last summer. So we need to take care of that. But more importantly, I want to talk about how to enjoy it. So we have a unique relationship between Douglas County and the Denver Astronomical Society. And each month they sponsor, or we collectively sponsor, sky parties. And that sounds kind of strange, but it's a blast, I promise you. If you watched anything of the Artemis program, you should come out and bring your kids or grandkids and enjoy this, because it's a gathering of astronomers who have bunches of telescopes, and they'll be looking at the moon, or they'll be looking at Jupiter or some deep sky object, and they can explain it, share a tremendous amount of education. It's a wonderful way to experience the awe of our dark sky here. I also ought to mention that the organization aspires to build a observatory at Sandstone Ranch. And so and work has been done to lay the foundation for that. And over the years to come, I hope that we'll be able to get funding and pursue the opportunity there. So I invite you and anyone in the audience who hasn't been to come on to the star parties. Douglas County residents have a special opportunity to sign up, which is a great part of this. And the next one is scheduled for this weekend. However, the weather may not cooperate, so we have to play them by ear a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dan, I think I was trying to keep track, but I think Jay ran out of dad jokes. So who is our next group of volunteers?
If there are representatives from the Historic Repository or Historic Advisory Board, I welcome them up. Or the Noxious Weed Advisory Council. Or anyone else that I may have failed to invite up by name. That concludes this portion of the presentation, I believe.
Thank you very much, Dan. Board, we have a resolution before us proclaiming April 2026 as Volunteer Month. Any discussion?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And as we've seen today, as hopefully our listening audience online and anyone in the room can see for themselves, that the backbone of Douglas County is our community volunteers. Whether it's the thousands of residents. We really have thousands of residents that step up. We heard from our sheriff's office that just within the sheriff's office alone, it's over $11 million in savings for the taxpayers of Douglas County, which is incredibly important for running an efficient government as we do. But really, it's the volunteers that make such a big difference in the lives of Douglas County, that makes Douglas County special, whether it's the open space, whether it's a parks volunteer, or victim rights, coming alongside a victim of a crime and being that supporting hand, our search and rescue team, which jumps up at a moment's notice when it's absolutely critical in the life of someone who is lost in search of rescue. Senior services, we have a tremendous amount of wonderful volunteers that step up for that. And of course, our fair and rodeo, as we heard today, could not happen without our volunteers. And I could go on and on listing the thousands of volunteers that step up, truly the backbone of Douglas County, truly providing such a great economic benefit, saving the hardworking taxpayers a tremendous amount of money, and also just contributing to the culture of service that I think is Douglas County, that when a neighbor is in need, another neighbor steps up and helps. And with that, Mr. Chair, happy to move a motion to approve a resolution proclaiming April 2026 as Volunteer Appreciation Month.
Motion heard. Further discussion?
I will second that motion, and I'm pleased to speak in favor of the motion.
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think that was really said by Commissioner Van Winkle, and I know we just heard from Open Space about bluebirds being signs of hope. And when I look out into this gallery, that's what I see in each of you. You're like bluebirds. I mean, you really are signs of hope in our community. You're salt and light. You're that thing that Mr. Rogers always used to talk about. Now I'm dating myself. If you talk about Mr. Rogers, he would say anytime there's a tragedy, look to the helpers, because there's so many more helpers. You know, anytime you see bad news, things that are challenging out there, look to the helpers, the people that are doing the good work. And I think, you know, the spirit of volunteerism is so powerful in our community because ultimately you're not getting compensated financially in any way from the county for the work that you do. But what I heard from so many of you was this sense of wonder and fascination and awe and joy that you receive in doing this work, and also the connection that you build with one another. I can't imagine the number of friendships and connections that have been built through just laboring alongside one another out in the field, regardless of what department you're serving. So I'm really thankful for the relationships, the service. Of course, as a fiscal conservative, somebody who's pleased with all the savings that we're getting from your volunteerism, that's really tremendous. But I would just ask, if I can, as a commissioner, for you to talk to your kids and your grandkids, because what we would really like to do is perpetuate this culture of giving back. And there's not a greater example of that in the near future than our Dugnat event, which is based upon a Scandinavian tradition. For anybody that's familiar with it, people in the community all get together for coffee and donuts in the morning, socialize, and then they just go out and they clean up and they pick up, they take care of seniors, they plant trees, and then they get back together and have some lunch. Well, we sort of appropriated that tradition. We do wink at it a little bit. We call it Dugnad, D-O-U-G, to represent Douglas County. But that is coming up on April 24th. The good news about it is if you have kids that are in school that need service hours, and in Douglas County they all do, they can get signed off on for service hours. So it's a great way to get those requirements met if you are a student. But again, it's the purpose is to perpetuate that culture of service for generations. And I know we got to go. I went out with my 8-year-old son Bolden out to a park in Parker planting some trees, and he got to name his own tree. He's a big Minecraft person, so he calls his tree Steve. Darned if I can find that tree, because they all look very similar, but hopefully we can locate it at some point. But the pride that young people take in knowing that, hey, that's the tree that I planted. So hopefully they can come back with their kids someday. But all that to say, thank you on behalf of the county for your great work. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can I ask every one of the volunteers that are in this room right now, please stand. Will everyone please join me in a round of applause? So I wanted to do that, not only to embarrass Brian over there, but more specifically, I wanted to do that because, you know, we get a chance to talk to our colleagues around the state. And our colleagues around the state, sometimes it kind of becomes annoying because they talk about, oh, that stuff that you in Douglas County are doing. And they'll talk about the open space programs. They'll talk about the support that our sheriffs get and the services that our sheriffs can do. And they'll be jealous of how we can do things seemingly so cheap. And I always turn to them and I say, well, we have volunteers. And I think in their minds, they think, so you get 2 or 3 people to show up and, you know, help out. You let them sweep the floor or something. And I don't know how many times, Abe, you and I have had to say, no. It's entire operations that we have turned over to volunteers. And I use that phrase, we turned it over to volunteers. We didn't turn anything over to volunteers. Volunteers showed up and did it. And it's something, I spoke in my prior comments about what makes Douglas County so neat as a community, so unique as a society here in America, because it's our volunteers who so many times show up, they have an idea, and I hope we're not saying, I'm sorry, we don't do that. I hope what we say is, we don't do that. Thank you for being here. And we do our best to give everybody what they need to take that dream, take that idea, and make it real. And I know, I've done some volunteering myself in my life. I know there's a lot of things that I want to do when I volunteer. I just hope you guys realize what you make possible for everyone else when you volunteer. And that's, again, what makes Douglas County, Douglas County. And many are jealous, and many want to be like us, and we're fortunate. We're already us. Board, we do have a resolution before us. It has received a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution proclaiming April 2026 as Volunteer Month is approved. Now, remember all you guys who came up and spoke a minute ago, and all you guys who just stood up a moment ago? You got to do some more work. You got to come down front and get a picture taken, please. If all of the volunteers in the room could please come forward.
We could have them stand and we could just take the picture going that way. Up to you. I guess they're coming.
Yeah, nah, we'll do it like we. Drew, do you want us to stay back here? Okay. And then you'll maybe have some people come up here?
Hey, Kevin. See you.
Yeah, jokes.
You must be a good dad. You got all the dad jokes.
How far down? Here, you'll have to kind of squeeze up against the dais there. Get a look behind the scenes. Like that. Now you know how the sausage is made up here.
There we go. Okay. There. Oh, okay. We're moving. We're shuffling.
They made you stand back here, huh?
Mm-hmm. He was relegated.
Go for it. Squeeze this. Good. When she's talking about sausage, huh?
Just get cozy. He does this like every session, so. They do this every year? I expected a big flash.
Lots of good images for you.
Yeah, it's always good to see the nice face.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Don't leave. I have something for you from Janelle.
Oh, okay, okay. Good job, gentlemen.
Well done. I guess, looks like Harold's heading out. I guess we just had some extra time. Oh, yeah.
I apologize. I wrote this not paying attention to what was happening out there. I just heard chatter. I was like, oh, it's going to be the usual. So, I think you're good.
Well, we still have, we still have
A few more items.
our final item.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's nice.
Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that are considered under one motion and under one vote. Public comment is not taken. Discussion among the board is not taken. Although any member of the board can remove an item from the consent agenda at any time to be considered separately and on its own vote. Board, is there a motion to accept and adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to approve the requests and items A through AE of the consent agenda.
Second.
There is a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the consent agenda is approved. Thank you, Counselor. Turning to the regular agenda. Our first item on the regular agenda is fiscal year 2026 Tranquility AI time pilot in the amount of $100,000. Dan McMillan, Division Chief, Sheriff's Office. And neither one of you look like Dan McMillan.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioners. Brian Murphy from the Sheriff's Office on behalf of Chief McMillan to present on Tranquility, along with Michelle Kennedy. We're requesting approval to acquire Tranquility AI, which is an advanced analytical platform designed by counterterrorism and cybersecurity experts. This system dramatically improves how we process large and complex databases, turning them into clear, actionable intelligence that supports faster and more accurate decision-making. Time Pilot integrates information from multiple sources, identifies patterns and connections we might otherwise miss, and provides decision support tools that strengthen case outcomes. It's essentially an AI-powered investigative analyst, not a universal AI assistant. TimePilot is fully CJIS compliant, which is very important for what we do every day. It's highly secure and includes translation capabilities in more than 120 languages. For our division, the benefits are significant. We gain efficiency by reducing review times, accuracy by minimizing human error, and a strategic edge when working complex cases such as violent crimes, ICAC, organized retail crime, fentanyl cases, financial crimes, gang investigations, and crimes originating inside of our jail. The total cost is $100,000, which includes 4 terabytes of annual data ingestion, 20 concurrent user licenses, training, support, and software updates. Importantly, the vendor provided a free proof of concept, giving our agency the first year of software at no cost. Turn to Michelle.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Kennedy, and I'm a crime analysis supervisor at the Sheriff's Office. I'm going to talk a little bit more about their Tranquility AI's product, TimePilot, and some specific use cases. The Sheriff's Office began using Tranquility AI's TimePilot platform a year ago under a grant. And during that time, we uploaded 30 cases consisting of violent crimes such as homicides, attempted homicides, cold case homicides, several missing persons cases, a high-profile kidnapping, and other complex cases. These are cases with extensive case files, digital evidence, and audio and video files. Law enforcement investigations often involve thousands of documents, videos, reports, and digital records that would take detectives and analysts weeks or months to review. TimePilot assists by organizing information, identifying relationships, and highlighting the most relevant of the data. This improves our efficiency, reduces time, brings faster case closure, and helps the Sheriff's Office pursue cases more thoroughly. TimePilot's ability to analyze all data, not just what a human has time to review, helps ensure that no detail is missed. TimePilot can also analyze information consistently and without personal bias or emotion, applying the same analytical process to all available data. TimePilot is the only known, fully integrated, CJIS-compliant AI platform that enables investigations, timeline generation, and analysis of critical law enforcement information. The system operates within a secure, closed platform that cites all sources of information, which ensures that information that is provided is accurate and verifiable within the case information. Not only is it a valuable tool for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, but more importantly, it benefits victims by ensuring thoroughness and accuracy in casework. It gives victims a faster path to justice and shortens the timeline by rapidly reviewing information and evidence that would normally take us months or weeks. Some of the most common uses during the last year, we created a lot of case summaries, and this is based on hundreds or thousands of pages of documents, so we can generate those case summaries for others joining in the investigation. Really, it generates those case summaries within seconds. Case timelines, those are particularly important for long and complex investigations. Suspect behavioral profile reports, and that's similar to what behavioral analysis units can do. Victimology reports, which is really important in homicide investigations. We can find small details within all of the data relatively quickly. And TimePilot can also analyze suspect statements or perform something called statement analysis, which is a method used to identify indicators of truthfulness or deception, and it can do that within seconds. They're adding new functionality all the time. They're going to be adding the ability for link analysis and potentially a podcast feature, which can be instrumental in cold case investigations, raising support or awareness for a specific case. In short, Time Pilot is helping the Sheriff's Office turn complex information into clear insight, and it is helping us solve cases faster. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you so much for that great presentation and for the really very intense work that you do on a daily basis. We deeply appreciate that. Obviously, this is the people's money, so we want to make sure that we're spending it very wisely and transparently. Do you have a sense of what sort of savings this software will provide in terms of man hours, time? I mean, is there any dollar amount that you have associated with the return on investment?
I don't think that's something that we've had the time to generate that information, but we are doing things with cases that we haven't been able to do before. So there may not be, I'm sure there are time savings, but we're also generating new products and doing additional analysis that we normally wouldn't have time to do. But that's probably something that we should start tracking once we are outside of our grant period.
Okay, that's helpful. And let me maybe just ask staff, is there any staff that have some additional input in terms of savings to the county, either from a public safety standpoint or man hours?
I think the savings, I don't think we have a study behind it, but it's immense, and I think they're using it in a way that allows them to just contemplate solving cases, cold cases in particular. Michelle and I were talking this morning. More recently, Rhonda Fisher. The tool just allows the savings. It's really more about how these cold cases, other things that just couldn't even do it. It just was and now they're doing it, and I think a lot more in the pipeline as far as cases to be solved. It's taking months of work and distilling it down to an hour or two.
Well, thank you, Mr. DeBoard. I think that's really helpful information, and that's salient. Taking months of work and distilling it to an hour, that is a massive savings to our community. And you also think about just the positive externalities associated with solving crimes. How much does that benefit a family, a community, a victim when these cases are actually addressed more efficiently and you do solve them? I mean, that is really significant to our community. So just wanted to thank you for the presentation. I think those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, any questions?
No questions from me.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I remember the presentation that we received, I think it was Dan, coming in and with the undersheriff. And when it was still, a year ago, looking at doing this one-year pilot. And it was, I thought, I was very impressed. I mean, I thought, with my background using enterprise resource planning tools, IT tools, I know it follows a rules-based methodology. Rules-based methodologies are not only a nice computer tool that you turn on and turn off and it helps you do something, but also, those become like a standard within a department, within a company, within an organization. And so, quite frankly, I think over time, it's not only that you guys are reaping benefits for it now, but you're going to find that it becomes a training methodology as well. Because anytime you have that rules-based information tool along with, people accept that as the standard. And so a standard that, our sheriff went off to the FBI Academy. We've had other members of senior staff go receive training throughout the country. Well, here's the tool that's going to help us with our own internal training right here in the county. So I think it was cool. I was very impressed with the demonstration we received. I'm very happy to see this here, and thank you so much for letting us know that it has indeed had some benefits within the sheriff's office.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I don't intend to belabor this, but I did have one other question. And we're all watching AI. I think we're leaning in as a county to new technology. But there's always that human element. I mean, you two are both incredibly well trained. How are you making sure that we're not overly reliant on technology and there's still that sort of backstop from a human side to make sure that the information you're getting is accurate?
Okay. So this product differs from traditional AI in that the only information that this sources from is the information that we feed into it on each individual case.
Okay.
So if I only feed in 5 documents worth of information, that's all it's drawing from. It's not going out to the web to grab other information. And like Michelle said, this is a tool that gives us leads. This is not something that is rogue and will tell us this is your suspect. It gives us leads, and then it is the human that has to follow up on those leads. But just in the things that we've been able to do, Michelle mainly with this, the amount of people that this program is taking the place of, like we're not moving anybody out of the way. We are multiplying what we are able to do hundreds, if not thousand-fold by the use of this program. An example, without giving any specific case details, is we have a suspect who has given multiple versions, accounts of his story along the way. While he's being interviewed the final time, Michelle is able to feed questions into Time Pilot on the fly as she's monitoring the interview, showing out inconsistencies in statements and calling out, where was it that you were being deceptive? Is it now or was it in previous? Which would take, in this case, what had there been, like 5 or 6 previous interviews?
Several.
It would have been several people having to monitor transcripts and maybe find the information. Probably not, though, at the pace that it's going. This is our test pilot with this program has been eye-opening.
Well, what an incredible weapon in crime fighting. Thanks for educating us.
Yes.
Further questions from the board? All right, thank you, guys. Let's go ahead and open it up to public comment. I received no one signing up for public comment on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to give public comment? And seeing none. All right, well, thank you, guys. Board, how would we like to dispose of this matter that we've been requested?
Mr. Chair, and we have in our meetings with the office had briefings about this program in the past. It's the thing I love about it is nothing. We are committing $100,000, but it's nothing new. It's not like we're going to throw $100,000 and hope it works out. It's been under use for over a year now, so we know it works. We know what we're investing in. We know what we're getting for it. And for me, just speeder trials, solving cold cases that otherwise wouldn't be solved, and saving, it's been said over and over, but saving hundreds of thousands of hours of staff time for the mere investment of $100,000, which follows a free year of trial to make sure it is exactly what we're looking for in this space. It's also the CJIS compliance thing. It's incredibly important. Criminal justice, it has to be in this space, in this arena. So with that, Mr. Chair, I won't belabor it. I'll move to approve the fiscal year 2026 Tranquility AI time pilot in the amount of $100,000.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item is a resolution establishing a child care property tax incentive program. Dan Avery, Deputy County Manager for staff.
Commissioners, thank you. I'm pleased to introduce this next item. Back in 2024, the Colorado General Assembly passed Senate Bill 24002, which enabled local governments to adopt property tax credits and rebates for areas of specific local concern, with those areas of local concern being defined as a use of real property that is determined to be diminishing or unavailable based on verifiable data. So about that time, Douglas County, the commissioners had a meeting with the Early Childhood Council, who identified a significant shortage in the availability of child care spots, particularly for infants and toddlers. So a task force was formed, and Diane Smith with the Early Childhood Council spearheaded that effort. She'll join me in making a brief presentation to you. And the results of that task force was a proposal to the commissioners to adopt a property tax credit as defined in this resolution. The bill requires that resolution be considered in a public hearing and that it be reviewed annually for a determination of its effectiveness. And it also requires notice to jurisdictions in the county and the opportunity to provide public comment. All of those requirements have been satisfied. So with that introduction, I will turn it over to Diane Smith to talk about the process that staff went through to develop this program. And also note that for this initial year, we are funding the property tax rebate through American Rescue Plan Act funds, specifically American Rescue Plan Act accrued interest that we've earned through our careful management of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So with that introduction, I will turn it over to Diane.
All right, thank you, Dan. Diane, when you are ready, ma'am.
I'm Diane Smith. I'm the director of the Douglas County Early Childhood Council, and I am thrilled to be with you today to talk about this property tax rebate, which we have been working on. We formed a working group. You can see the members here, and so it was a broad group thinking about all of the ramifications and implications for this rebate. You may remember that it feels like a century ago, but I think it was only about a year and a half, that you commissioned a study about the possibility of various intergenerational supports within our county for our seniors, senior citizens, and child care. One of the recommendations that came out of that was to look at this Senate Bill 2024-002, which we did. And as stated by Dan earlier, our real deficit is in the number of seats for infants and toddlers. This is our most current data that I have, and this is based on averages. It's not exact, but unfortunately, our available infant seats have actually declined since the last time we looked at these data, from 16.6% to 15.4% seats that we have available for infants in the county. And our toddler seats have increased by a teeny little smidgen of 0.2%, as you can see there. In looking at who would be eligible to receive this property tax refund, it would be any licensed child care in Douglas County, which includes centers, in-home programs, and others who pay property tax, obviously. They would need to be in good standing with no outstanding tax liabilities, and they would also need to agree to use these funds, obviously, to support various things that would help the child cares, to support their staff retention, the kinds of materials that kids use, because as you can imagine, children are hard on materials, and to do any facility upgrades, especially for health and safety needs. The structure that we looked at, and this was after lots of discussion, and we met with a group of child care providers to talk about this, would be that all of the child cares would be eligible for a 75% rebate of the county portion of their property taxes. In addition, programs that do offer seats for infants and/or toddlers would be eligible for an additional 25% of their taxes rebated to them. And this amount would equate to the property taxes only paid, obviously, to the Douglas County City Government. Mill levies collected for other purposes would not be included. As Dan said, this has to be renewed every year, and in order to do that, we would want to do a program evaluation. In fact, we'd be required to do so to determine the effectiveness, and we'd want to look at what's the change in the number of licensed child cares in the county. What's our capacity for infants and toddlers? And one of the pieces of data that I'm very excited to be collecting is what are our actual number of seats, not just the averages that the data that I get from the state tells me, our actual number of seats for infants and toddlers in the county. Looking at the geographic distribution, the number of program participants, and the financial impact, obviously, and any other criteria that you may feel that you would be interested in learning. I would really like to invite up now Mark Arbitro, who is the director of the owner of the Ivy Brook Academy, to just talk briefly to the potential benefits to our child care providers.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this important initiative. I think it's important that you do hear from somebody who's actually operating a facility. Thank you for promoting me to director. I'm not qualified, but I do own the facility. We have it's literally less than a mile down the road from here, Ivy Brook Academy. We opened in 2020. Since then, there's been a lot of headwinds, right, from a cost perspective, right, whether it be due to COVID or insurance, 20% year over year type of increases, and even property taxes, right? I know mine personally have probably close to doubled in that time frame. And because of that, there are more schools closing than there are opening in this state. I'll say that again, there's more schools closing than opening in a time when, as Diane pointed out, we need the seats. So if there was only really one reason to approve the measure here, to me, it's about leveling the playing field a lot between private and public schools, because public schools don't have that tax burden, right, that we do. In addition to that, I want to address all the ways that the state legislature also kind of tilts that playing field. But we want to continue to be able to provide a lot of choices for Douglas County's families, right? And so keeping those schools open, obviously, is a great way to do that. How would we specifically use this tax relief? For me personally, I have a project plan to try to take a large room and divide it in thirds and have more capacity for specifically infants and toddlers. But I think equally as important as that is if there's anyone who's had, in listening here, kids go through preschool recently, they know the turnover in staff that can occur. I know that my own son, before doing what I do now, we were getting an email every other month, it seemed like, saying, meet your new teacher, right? And so putting a lot of these funds towards staff retention and training, these are special people who aren't doing it to get rich, right? We want to make sure this is an enjoyable experience, not just from a compensation perspective, but the number of people in the building, right? I don't want this to be where they're gasping for air to survive the morning, right? We want this to be quality education, not just a place for kids to go and while our parents are away. So that's just some perspective on why, from an operator perspective, I think this is a very important initiative for you guys to support. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have to.
All right, thank you, sir. Let's, we may have questions for you in a minute. Diane.
Thank you, Mark. The application process should be pretty simple, assuming that you approve this proposal. We would hope to have the applications go live in April or May. We're waiting on a few IT pieces to fall into place. The applications would be reviewed by the Douglas County Early Childhood Council, the Assessor's Office, and the Finance Department. And then checks would be generated and then mailed out, because we would have potentially two different types of checks, those receiving the 75% and those receiving 100%, so that we can sort that out. And I just have to say, we've been hearing this whole meeting today about the many, many things that this county does so well. And one of them I have so appreciated because I've been in education. I've lived in the county since my 43-year-old son was 2. So I've been here quite a while. And the support that you give to our people with disabilities, our children, and the other programs that make this living in this county much more enjoyable than possibly in other locations. So, questions?
All right, board, questions for Director Smith?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for that great presentation. This is a subject that has been near and dear to my heart for many years. So I know we've had a lot of conversations, and you know that graphic that you showed us of the deficit in seats is massive. And, you know, as a board, we're always trying to find ways to eliminate those gaps and solve for some of these challenging issues. My interest really arose out of COVID in 2 ways. One was we saw that people in congregate care settings, seniors in particular, weren't allowed to have visits from family members. They were being very isolated and unfortunately were dying from a lack of social connection and other issues. And so we started talking a little bit more about providing opportunities for seniors in our community to volunteer and connect with young people and provide maybe some additional, I guess, release of that safety valve so that they could maybe provide some of their education and experience to young people and help young parents that didn't have access to childcare to be able to get that. I'm really pleased that HRCA has stepped up with the Bridging Generations program. I guess my first question is really around how's that going? And as one of our largest providers of, you know, cultural and scientific amenities in our community, would love to see HRCA continue to partner with us so that more kids can get childcare and more seniors can provide their experience through storytelling and their lives. I think the other area from COVID that stood out to me was we got this statistic that women were the true heroes of COVID and that in many ways they came back home and took care of kids that weren't allowed to go to school because the schools all got shut down. So the child care for particularly moms to help them get back to their careers if they chose to do that became really significant to me. And so I'm also thinking about capacity in other areas. So if there is a business that wants to have a child care facility on site, my other question is whether they would qualify for this child care tax credit. I even think about governments. I mean, maybe close your ears, guys, but part of me feels like, you know, we might be able to hire and retain more people here if we had some semblance of on-site childcare where there's a drop-off and, you know, busy parents can visit their toddlers and kids right here and then go where they need to go. That's getting way ahead of any discussions we have ever had, but I just want to share a bit about what's rumbling around in my mind because the gap, right? The gap is so significant and the need is so high. So maybe talk to us about that.
Thank you for asking those questions.
Yeah.
First of all, when we did the initial study related to the intergenerational work, you may remember that you did approve funding for the Early Childhood Service Corps to train seniors to be able to either volunteer or even work in child cares. And that's been a very good partnership. I believe we've had you provided funding for up to 30 seniors for that, and I believe that they have trained, I want to say 10 to 15. I don't know the exact number right now, and have them placed in Douglas County. And we continue to have an active partnership. We go to those senior events, and they look at me and my banner that says early childhood, and they're looking at me like, what? And so that's why I put this slide up, just to remind you of that. The HRCA is a great partnership. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't involved in that, but I do want to get involved in that because it is another really great project. When it comes to businesses, I couldn't agree with you more. Epic, who did our original study, that's their main driving force, is to look at how can we partner with businesses to support them in adding childcares. I have been in contact with the school district. As you know, they're closing 3 schools in Highlands Ranch. And I have made a proposal to them that at least one of those schools, that they build a childcare that would first be for staff members and an actual childcare that has infants. You know, they already do preschool, of course, but we're talking about infants and toddlers here. And they're very intrigued by that and are putting together a task force, so I'm kind of moving that forward. I know that Jen in our community department has worked with some of the the builders who are building low-income housing to see about the possibility of adding childcares there. So there are, you know, it's one of those issues where it's so complicated and so diverse. It takes lots of pieces to put together. And the last thing I want to say is I know that you all have given some grant money to Yana, You Are Not Alone, and one of her projects, Strong Mamas, Thriving Babies, where they go to hospitals every month and meet with, every day, and meet with moms who have just given birth. I go and meet with those moms once a month at their meetings at the 3 different areas in the county. And I always ask them about childcare. And I can't tell you how many of them have either chosen not to go back to work because they can't afford, you know, their childcare, or having to look for other types of positions, or are totally dependent on family, friends, and neighbors that I know Commissioner Van Winkle is very familiar with from his work at the state level to help them with their childcare. So that's one of the reasons I'm sorry I'm talking too long here, but that I am very passionate about this because it's a work issue, it's a community issue, it's an everything issue, really.
Yeah, well, and you have been so passionate, and you're such a great advocate, and your background and education and experience really lends itself well to this project. You know, as my time wraps up in January, this will probably be a more significant issue for my colleagues going forward, but I always say we don't wait to do great, and I would love to hear more from you and just invite you now to be involved with HRCA. That's a wonderful partner, and they see so many kids and seniors every day. But would love to try to address that gap this year if we can. So thank you for answering that so thoroughly.
Sure.
Further questions from the board? Diane, I have a question, and the question I want to ask is one I already know the answer to, and that is what took so long? I know it took so long. We had a lot of work to do, but because I know the answer to the second question, it's my actual question, but I wonder if you can help us out. We've been putting a lot of work out on this. Are there any other counties that have gotten to this point to pass this resolution in a public meeting that's called for under the enabling legislation?
Well, there is one other county who has also been working on this, and that's Adams County. And we did take a little longer than I wanted, and they actually had their public meeting about a week ago. But we are the only 2 counties in the state, and we started working on it first. And I'm really proud of that. And also, I'm starting to hear from other counties who are wanting to know, how did we do this? So I mean, that is a great thing to be a leader in and at the forefront of looking at how we can support our very necessary childcare programs.
Well, thank you for letting us know that. Actually, I wasn't sure if Adams County had done it yet, so thank you for letting us know. Board, any further questions before we turn to public comment? All right. Director Smith, thank you so much for all your work on this and bringing this before us today. At this time, we're going to open the floor for public comment. I did not receive anyone signing up for public comment on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this matter in public comment? And seeing none, let's bring it back to the board. Board, obviously, we've had many discussions as we were going through this process. You guys are aware, I'm very much in favor of this. You know, how many times have we heard from our residents that childcare is an issue? It's an issue of cost, it's an issue of availability. We know that we can do one of 3 things. We can spend money on additional childcare facilities and then cut programs from somewhere else because we do operate under a fiscally constrained budget, we can raise taxes in order to spend money. Or we can do just this, just what this says. We can not spend the money coming from the county, but we can give tax breaks to those child care providers and allow them to retain that money, reinvest that money, and the intent, as we've heard, as we heard from our operator of a child care facility, is try to increase more seats. So I think this is the correct way to go, and I hope you agree. How would we like to dispose of this resolution before us?
Well, Mr. Chair, for me, this is a bit of a full circle moment. I thought the room would be full today of people claiming for tax relief and clamoring for more child care. But it is a full circle moment for me, helping to form and support a framework for policies like this at the state level, making it options for counties, and now being here among you two terrific commissioners, fully implementing tax relief for the families of Douglas County it's a proud moment, and I'm just so glad that we're here. I'm slightly disappointed Adams County beat us by just a few days. But us being the only 2 counties in the state to take advantage of this, I really would encourage all 64 counties in Colorado to take up something like this, because the people do need tax relief when it comes to this area of both their property taxes and child care. It supports working families. This resolution before us today, if it were to pass, directly addresses the rising cost of living and the rising cost of child care. Also, we spend a lot of time as a Board of County Commissioners doing everything we can to boost our local economy. And when we're talking to a company about moving here to Douglas County, we also want to talk, those companies, they often will ask about affordable child care options for their employees. Because when parents have reliable child care that's nearby, they can go to that job every day and feel very comfortable about where their child is. And also, we can reach out to those companies that might be in other states and invite them here to Colorado, and to Douglas County specifically, because we're a place that's open for business. We're a place that is on the cutting edge of providing that tax relief necessary to get child care to be a little bit more affordable. And with that, Mr. Chair, it's my honor to move the approval of this resolution, which establishes a child care property tax incentive program for the hardworking taxpayers of Douglas County.
And I will second that motion.
Very well. There is a motion and a second. Further discussion? Well, I think this is a great way to go. Yeah, Kevin. Thanks. Thanks for reminding us the key role you played in bringing this before us today. So, and Abe, thank you. I know this has been something near and dear to your heart. You really stood on a soapbox when it first came up for us for consideration. So, well done, fellas. There is a motion and a second. I'm pretty sure I know this answer also, but all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution is approved. Director Smith, please do cooperate with any other counties that come forward, that approach you. And then County Manager, may I ask that any counties that approach us to talk about this, we give them all the support. And if Director Smith could avail herself of any staff support she may need, helping convince our colleagues around the state to follow us in this path. All right. Our final item under consideration today is a license agreement between the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners and the Grandview Estates Homeowners Association. Presenting is Zeke Lynch, Assistant Director of Public Works and Engineering.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. That's better. Zeke Lynch presenting for staff today. The item before you is a license agreement for the permanent closure of 2 trail access points within the Grandview Estates neighborhood. So to orient you and the members of the public who are here today, Grandview Estates is a rural residential neighborhood in north central Douglas County, sandwiched between C-470 and Lincoln Avenue, adjacent to the town of Parker. Administratively, staff has previously approved a temporary closure license agreement for 2 trailheads within the neighborhood at 2nd and 3rd Street. One trailhead on this map, just about 900 feet due west, is at 1st Street. That remains open. And you can see the town of Parker to the north of the line there, where lots of new multifamily, hotel, higher density type of uses has been developed adjacent to this rural residential neighborhood. So giving you a little bit more background on the timeline. So since about this time last year, some concerns were raised from neighbors in the neighborhood regarding vandalism, dirt bikes, ATVs, golf carts, e-motorcycles who were eluding the sheriff's office and using the trails to elude those officers. By the summer of 2025, we worked with the HOA, and they polled their residents, the majority of whom supported the closure of the trailheads at 2nd and 3rd Street. We also worked with the town of Parker to maintain that trailhead at 1st Street to allow access for both folks coming into Grandview Estates and also Estates residents accessing the trails that were recently created in the Belford South Metro District just north of the area. So by August 2025, we issued that license agreement. The HOA installed the fencing and worked with the South Metro Fire District to install appropriate gates for access to the fire hydrants. At that time, some neighbors had opposed these closures and voiced their concerns with the closures. After repeated repairs, the HOA did maintain those fences and made sure they were up and closed both trailheads appropriately. And they have reported that they have been effective at reducing those undesirable traffic impacts. We're here today to ask for the board's consideration of a permanent closure of these 2 trailheads. And with that, that concludes my presentation. And I know there's some public here that would like to comment.
All right, thank you, Zeke. Any questions for staff from the board?
Yeah, I do have some questions. So obviously, we deeply support and appreciate the citizens that are here today on both sides of the issue and support Grandview Estates. I thought in an earlier presentation you indicated that this neighborhood had asked for those trails or had advocated for them. Am I missing something there?
So I think there'll be a couple of public members that will comment on that exact point. But my understanding of that was that when the neighborhood was developing within the town of Parker just north, the HOA at that time did advocate for these trail connections, seeing them as benefits to their neighbors to access the trails that were being created as part of that neighborhood to the north.
So the HOA originally said, yes, we want okay.
That's my understanding.
Have you been able to verify with the sheriff's office or law enforcement these vandalism incidents and the incidents of crime that have been reported?
So I did inform our sheriff's office partners of today's hearing. I don't know that anybody from that group is here today, but I know they have been called out on a number of occasions to address the e-bikes, which is a real problem, not just in Grandview Estates, but throughout the county. The e-bikes tend to, I guess they're very elusive and they're pretty fast. So when they have been contacted, the sheriff's office has reported that many times those kids are just running from the police. They're not actually stopping to speak with them.
Okay. Well, and because e-bikes are here to stay. I don't think e-bikes are going anywhere, but we want to make sure that they're safe and people are following bike safety rules and not eluding law enforcement, of course. I want to make sure we're separating hyperbole from fact. So I'd be curious to know, and if citizens are prepared to testify to specific incidents where you have police reports as opposed to, any hyperbole, I think that would be helpful for us as decision makers, or at least for me. Thanks, Zeke.
Further questions for staff?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so this feels an awful lot like a local HOA issue, but it finds its way to us today, which is, frankly, at least in my first year, a bit unusual. Is it because a license is needed to cooperate on county-owned right-of-ways? Is there liability portions to this? And then a follow-up question, which is a little bit separate. but fire is always on our minds. It keeps us up at night, especially this year. If fences were to be erected, would they be up to fire code and be able to be unlocked if necessary?
So I'll speak to your first, or the second item first, and that is the HOA did work with South Metro Fire District to get gates that have a knock box on them. So any fire department official that might need to access those gates actually has a key and can get to the fire hydrants appropriately. As far as your first question, I would have to defer to our attorney's office on any specific liability, but we do, as staff, we do bring permanent license agreements to the board for approval.
With regard to liability, not speaking to every possible factual situation, but I don't believe that approving or denying the license would lead to any additional liability to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Well, so Zeke, I'm still a little unclear after the presentation. So if we vote yes for this license agreement, does that mean that the county is working with the HOA to put up the permanent trail closures and maintain those permanent trail closures?
Yeah, let me clarify, and forgive me if that wasn't clear in my presentation. Administratively, in the summer of 2025, staff allowed, with Doug's approval through the county manager's office, a temporary license agreement for the HOA to erect the fences. So the fences and the gates for the access to the fire hydrants have been in place since then at the sole cost of the HOA, and they have been maintaining them since that time. So the county staff, public works staff, would not take any additional responsibility on in this regard. We're just allowing the HOA to continue to maintain the fences as they've been approved.
Okay, so let's flip the coin. If the vote is no on this license agreement, what then? The fences at the trailheads have to come down?
That's right. Their temporary license agreement expires April 30th, and they'll be required to take them down before that date.
Okay. All right, I am clear. Thank you, sir. Further questions for staff?
Yeah, I'm a little troubled by that, honestly. I mean, the county empowers the Board of County Commissioners to represent 400,000 people and make sure that investments in trails and parks and open space are preserved. I'm not a fan of administrative approvals. I think anytime you're asking to have a trailhead closed, that should come before the board. We should have a more in-depth conversation about that. I think we have had those conversations, but I am very concerned about just simply closing trails because it sets a precedent, right, for other neighborhoods in the future. In some cases, it may be warranted. I'm very curious to hear from the citizens and get a sense of where they're at, but I just speaking for me, I think that's an important issue for the Board of County Commissioners.
Further questions for staff?
Zeke, does the proposal before us today for a reissuance of the license that's been in effect for the past year, is there a timeline upon it?
So I believe the neighborhood is asking for a permanent timeline, and I guess we could define that however we so choose. If it was on an annual recurrence basis, if I would be seeking, Chris Pratt or attorney's office some guidance on what that could look like.
Thank you.
Further questions for staff? All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and turn to public comment. Thank you, Zeke. And we'll open the floor for public comment. I do have people signed up for public comment. First person to be called is Lori Rapucci. Lori, please come forward. Do give us your name again for the record and tell us where you're from, ma'am.
I am Lori Rapucci, and I've lived at 12861 North 4th Street in Grandview Estates for almost 24 years now. The worst thing that I have seen in this community is how the community is being more and more closed off. Please do not permanently close the trail access at the north end of Grandview. If you live at the north end, you can't even walk around the block because of all the road vacations at the north and east ends. You have to kind of go around and go back. This trail access is all we have left. We do not even have sidewalks or street lights, and this all makes Grandview less desirable neighborhood. The county and the county attorney should take notice that the Grandview HOA is a non-mandatory HOA and has no legal authority to represent the entire community. I and many received no notice about this license agreement to permanently close these trail access points. The HOA has significantly overstepped its authority in entering into this agreement. I implore the county to cease reliance on this HOA for communication to Grandview residents. It legally should not. Communications about property and permit changes affect the entire community, and all property owners should be notified. Unlawful vehicles are owned by community members, and there's no proof that trail access has caused this or vandalism. Survey results presented with no survey itself have been misrepresented. Not everyone in the community responded to it. There are just under 250 homes in Grandview with 94 responses. Is that 94 people, 94 families? It's intentionally left unclear. Closing off our community has reduced the property values of all the homes in Grandview. No one wants to live in a community where they can't even walk around the block. This license should be not denied, and the county must cease accepting the HOA as an official authoritative body that speaks for the community, because it does not. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Deborah Sherwood. And folks, we'll get our timer going here in a second. Everyone will be allowed 2 minutes. And I'll work to get our timer up so that you can get that instant feedback. In the meantime, I'm following the clock on the big screen. Ma'am, please give us your name again and tell us where you're from, and begin when you're ready.
First, I'd like to say to Commissioner Teal, thank you for your service. I am also a veteran.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Sherwood. I reside at 12061 North 6th Street in Parker. Respectfully, I request the board deny the proposed permanent license based on the following. Our HOA is a voluntary nonprofit, not a mandatory HOA. It was formed for charitable and social welfare purposes, such as promoting community well-being, preserving the royal character of the area, and these purposes did not include terminating established trail access or making binding agreements with the county on behalf of all property owners. Without recorded covenants, mandatory membership, or governing authority over the entire community, the HOA does not have legal standing to represent all residents. Equally concerning is the lack of transparency. After the survey last year, we were not provided with a formal plan, cost estimates, or notice of any license agreements, or now permanent closure. The March 2026 newsletter did not address permanent trail closure or this hearing, so there was no public announcement by the HOA about this hearing. This is not informed community consent, it is the absence of it. The most critical issue is liability. The association accepted all liability without liability insurance. It's not a mandatory HOA. If the county approves permanent closure under these conditions, who is financially responsible for ongoing obligations? Will resources be available to meet those obligations? And where does liability fall in the absence of liability insurance? Without clear answers, these risks do not disappear, they are transformed. Denial is the appropriate and legally prudent course of action. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Karen Hickman. Karen, do I understand you will be speaking on behalf of the HOA?
Yes, and I was told I have 4 minutes.
Will the clerk please adjust timer to reflect a 4-minute limit? And ma'am, please do give us your name, tell us where you're from, and your time will begin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Karen Hickman, President of the Voluntary HOA, a 30-year property owner that I reside at 12784 North 3rd Street. Before I begin, I want to offer an important clarification. After hearing about a possible Belford South Metro District vote regarding keeping the 2 trailheads open, I reached out directly to Mr. Larry Jacobson, the district's board president. We were able to speak yesterday. Mr. Jacobson was unaware that there were any issues, and after reviewing the documentation I provided, stated he fully supports granting a permanent license agreement to close the two trailheads, noting that these access points are located on county property. He does not believe a formal district vote, a board vote is required, though while he spoke with their attorney, he is out of town and will reconfirm. If the commissioners have any questions, he indicated you're welcome to contact him directly. This reinforces that the county has full authority to determine the safest and most appropriate access points. The broader context has remained constant. The HOA, working with Douglas County Sheriff and also even county staff, attempted to meet with the primary representative of the opposition and offer mediation. No response was ever received. Both the HOA and the county have consistently tried to pursue a collaborative, good faith path to resolution. For decades, Grandview was bordered on three sides by agricultural uses, and there was no official trail access. Development north of us expanded from 192 units in 2013, when the trailhead access was originally discussed, to over 828 units today, including 492 apartments. All parties understood that access could be reconsidered if problems arose. The prior HOA board never conducted a community-wide survey of all property owners. The temporary closures have produced clear documented outcomes. There has been a significant reduction in crime per the LexisNexis crime application, which receives automated data directly from law enforcement agencies, including Douglas County Sheriff, but excludes crime of youth because they are minors. Illegal off-road activity and calls into Douglas County Sheriff have decreased substantially, allowing them to focus their resources elsewhere. There was a record response community-wide survey that showed 70% of those participating property owners supported maintaining the closures. The First Street trailhead remains fully open and provides complete access for residents on both sides of the boundary, including future southern trail connectivity to the Ridgegate subdivision. And the preferred South Metro Fire and Rescue water refill point is at the First Street trailhead, not at the Second and Third Street trailheads. They were never engineered to function as recreational trailheads. The HOA has, in good faith, fully complied with the license agreement, and volunteers have repeatedly repaired vandalism. It is in alignment with county goals. The request supports their safety, land use, and wildfire mitigation objectives, and we have been a Firewise USA community since 2018. Our request is simple and balanced. We ask that you maintain closure of the two unsafe access points while preserving full public access at First Street. This approach protects residents, supports reasonable trail usage, and aligns with the county's long-term safety and land management goals.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
Do you have any questions of the HOA?
Let's come back to that once we
Okay.
complete all public comment.
Thank you. I
Karen.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bill Bleiser. And sir, when you come up, please give us your name. So if I mispronounced, you get a chance to correct it and tell us where you're from.
Bill Blyes, speaking of First Street, that happens to be 12866 North First Street, which was just spoken of. Been there for 30 years this year, actually. I'm going to make it brief. I think the first two would do a much better job at speaking about what I probably would. I didn't bring anything other than to say, I think I've got more cameras and more security than just about anybody in that neighborhood. I've been there a long time, and I can tell you this. We have rural, Grandview has been great, and then we have the urban, and we have the two that mixed. And some of the commissioners talked about it. Douglas County, and what does that mean? Does that mean closing it off altogether, though? I don't think so. Not at all. Why should it? We've got access on South. We've got access on First. South on Elm Street to an open space ground. Do we need a fully open access point? Possibly not, because most of the damage that's been caused on that trail in the adjoining North community has been from Grandview and its residents itself. You've got a community that has ATVs, motorcycles, combustible. We get it. We've had that area for a long time all to ourselves. That has been adjusted. The vandalism point, like I said, I've got the cameras, is not. Has there been issues? There has. Has it been drawn down? Sure. Can it not be fixed with talking about access for a lot of folks in Grandview that are going to enjoy those trails on the other side much more so than anybody that wants to come into Grandview and affect us? What does that mean? A little bit of egress, possibly. Not keeping it open so all those materials may be able to get through and cause issues. I see I'm out of time. But we have bars 30 inches, horses go over. I don't know what keeps those from e-bikes and others. It can happen. I get it. But we've dealt with it for a good couple years. We can continue with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Lindsay Schutte. Ma'am, please do give us your name, tell us where you're from, and please do correct my pronunciation.
Sure, thanks. I'm Lindsay Schultz. I'm a resident of 12869 and 3rd Street. I'm not going to repeat things that you already heard, but I think it's relatively fair to say that I represent the newer homeowners in the area of Grandview and some of those folks who went to Grandview for the wonderful country feel that's still accessible to I-25 and other places. And I have to say I'm quite frankly shocked at how this process has proceeded, and I want you to take away 2 very important things. First, I have seen no meaningful evidence that the HOA has authority to enter into contracts that bind the entire neighborhood to take actions that are this material to the quiet enjoyments of open space within the neighborhood. Second, the lack of transparency has already been mentioned by a few people. I don't want to repeat that, but the facts have been materially overstated, including the fact that a single postcard went to residents during what I believe was summer break for all parents in the neighborhood and was not seen by the majority, over 50% of the residents. 2, the mention of the discussion and things that happened on a private Facebook group where all I saw was people arguing. After people got tired of arguing, nobody gave any notice, no signage, no leaflets, no offer for a meeting among community members that I saw anywhere, including in the most recent newsletter. And in fact, the only reason I found out about this meeting was because a concerned citizen found email addresses of a few members of the community, not all members of the community, but just a few, and that allowed me to come today. And I had, let's say, less than 48 hours to prepare for this, so I do thank you for your time, but I implore you to deny this license and at minimum allow extra time for meaningful notice and comment among all the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Tom Johnson. Sir, please give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Tom Johnson. I live at 12744 North 3rd Street, actually just next door to the HOA president. To your concerns and point on fire, I've been in the fire service for 20 years. I'm currently battalion chief with the city of Aurora, and I became more involved in this whole process because the original fencing that went up completely blocked access to these fire hydrants. There are residents in this community that have been here a long time that see the old way that South Metro used to get water. These hydrants are new to this community. They were placed by the town of Parker on the other side, but are still accessible to our community. And so it's a huge value to any fire company that they can hook into a domestic water supply over having to draft water or bring in tenders. That has since been corrected, but there are still gates in front of this that block access to it. I can tell you of the hundreds of fires I've been on in my career, not a single one was benefited by having some sort of access issue that needed to be alleviated, whether it's like brush in front of it, whether it's fencing, whether it's gates around it. You still have to take time to open the key, everything to get access to it. It delays water, and it inhibits fireground success. I can just tell you that right now. A couple things, I won't repeat what they said, but it is important to note, 27% of this neighborhood supported this. 27%. Okay, so that's 68 or so in favor of the 243 property owners. That is not a majority, that is a very small minority. It should also be noted that both sides of 3rd Street are designated public right-of-way, as confirmed by the county and Town of Parker records. So the Town of Parker denied this request by the HOA to close off access at 1st Street. I'm asking that the county follow suit and respectfully ask the board to deny the request for the permanent closure of 2nd and 3rd Street.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Lindsay, I think it's Langer. Ma'am, please do give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Hi there, my name is Lindsay Langer. I'm a newer resident in Grandview. I'm at 12985 North 4th Street. While I'm a newer resident, I own the oldest home one of the oldest homes in Douglas County. It was built in 1905. That's what drew us to the Grandview residency. They started selling lots in the 50s, before Parker was even a city, before it was established. And while it has built up around us, it has the feel of the country, and we're seeing that more and more in Douglas County. And so in order to preserve that, our community staying a little more closed helps guard that. I have animals. I share a fence line along most of this trail, and I think it's a little misleading to say close a trail. I watched the trail be built in the last 3 years. We're not closing off a trail that has been there for a long time. It was just recently opened. And so we're not closing off something that has a lot of existence. When we bought our home, we thought there were going to be maybe 300 homes there. They're now upward, I think someone just said 800. And that is very, very different, having another 800 people having access to come into our neighborhood. And that is happening. While there's one trail behind us that we can still access on 1st Street, having more openings for the public to come in, the neighborhood behind us to come in, affects us very significantly in a neighborhood that is considered residential agriculture. And what I mean by that is daily, I have people on my fence line messing with my animals. I have dogs, because of the trail, they think it's an open access or maybe a dog park. I have dogs running the fence line, chasing my animals. And so I think that when we're saying close a trail, it's a trail that was just opened. It's not something that's been there for the history. This neighborhood has been there significantly longer. We don't have sidewalks. There's no reason for people to be having more access to our neighborhood. If we want to go to a trail or to a sidewalk, we can use 1st Street rather than open it up to the upwards of 800 residents that are now behind us.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Lester Metzler? Sir, well, sir, you get to say your name again and correct my pronunciation, and please tell us where you're from.
Hi there. My name is Lester Medlock. My wife and I have lived at 12822 North 4th Street for 34 years in July. Two issues, I have two concerns. Number one, we have no issues or objections to closing the trail. As to leaving them closed or opening them, we're pretty much not apathetic, but ambivalent. Number two, and this is our big concern, I have yet to talk to a single person, and I've talked to quite a few of my neighbors and even people here today, that have not received any ballots, surveys, or any other tool for which to express their opinion. From what I read in an email from a neighbor, it appears to me that our HOA has exceeded the scope of the authority and responsibilities afforded to them by their charter. It also seems that this overstepping was aided and perhaps fostered by the county commissioners. I intend to look further into this matter and seriously considering seeking legal counsel regarding possible litigation involving both the HOA and the county commissioners. One last thing. If you Google map the subdivision of Grandview Estates, and I know not everything on the internet is fact.
Sir, excuse me, I'm so sorry. You really do need to address the board.
Okay, if you Google map Grandview Estates subdivision, you'll see that it differs from the map that was presented by Public Works. And the Grandview Estates subdivision actually goes up as far as and includes part of 470. So I'm not sure what the facts are here. I'm going to research it some more. But I think our HOA has, and possibly in bed with you, in exceeding their authority. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Kenneth Ramsey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Ramsey. I live at 3862 Elm Avenue in Grandview Estates. I've lived there since the 1980s. I've been asking for trails access ever since we moved in there. Only recently, with this new construction, has actually trail access been provided. When 470 went in, I convinced the 470 people to place the 470 bike trail on the south side so we would have easier access to it. Over the years, many events I have witnessed of people coming into Grandview for various purposes. When it was necessary and appropriate, I called the sheriff's office, and I've always been satisfied with the help from the sheriff's office. I would also add that students and teachers regularly come running through Grandview. I believe the school's name is Chaparral over on Chambers, just to our east. And that has not been complained by anyone. In fact, my neighbors all approve of that and want the track team to be allowed to do that. I would just say at this time, I oppose the closure of these trails. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Rocky Johnson. Sir, please come forward. Give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Good afternoon. My name is Rocky Johnson. I live at off 2nd Street, 12661 North 2nd Street. Been there for a few years and have definitely witnessed a lot of the issues that we're seeing with the e-bikes and a lot of the ATVs and stuff coming through there. The gates that they've put up still provides clear access to hikers on that trail. What it does is it prohibits the e-bikes easily coming through, prohibits a lot of the ATVs and stuff like that come screaming down our road. We've had other neighbors get their dogs run over. They torment our dogs all the time, going up and down, riding wheelies and stuff. As the gentleman mentioned, yes, Chaparral runs their track team through there, supervised. They do not harass people. They don't run over dogs. They don't do anything like that. So we don't mind people utilizing it if they are abiding by some respect for the neighborhood. Problem is you guys put in over 800 units over there, and the wonderful law is having to put out a certain percentage to low-income housing. Well, Grandview Estates has a lot of people with a lot of nice stuff. Well, where do criminals go to steal nice stuff? So 800 units, you're raising the crime rate by allowing all of that. It's not the down-home Parker feel anymore, and we're seeing the brunt of it. There's still complete access on First Street. If you are on a bike, if you're on something that you're riding around, you can easily go down to First Street, get in there, instead of having to lift your bike over the fence. This is a silly point that you guys are thinking that you're closing off the entire trail. step over the gate, go over the gate. It's super easy. They do it all the time. So if you're a hiker, you can easily still get to the trail. You're just prohibiting kids from ATVs and e-bikes and everything like that, screaming down the road at 40, 45 miles an hour, riding wheelies, running over dogs, and causing issues. So there's my take on it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. That concludes who I had signed up to give public comment on this matter. We're going to take a brief recess in order to take care of some personal business, and we'll come back after 10 minutes. So we have a 10-minute recess. All right, let's come to order, folks. Okay, we had just gotten through the sign-up sheet for public comment. At this time, I'm willing to open the floor for any additional public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make additional comment on this item? Please come forward. Sir, please come forward. And please give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Hi, Mark Horton, 3134 Cottonwood, 28-year resident. So I was actively involved in the trailhead closures because I got tired of the e-bikes coming down the road 50, 60 miles an hour at night, usually in a wheelie. Dogs have been hit from personal friends. Vet testified that it was probably a motorcycle tire that ran over it. E-bike tire, you know, similar. There was a dirt bike track at 3rd and Birch near Lincoln. They would go get their friends up north, or they would cross over from Meridian Village, and they would ride around in there, and then come dark, the bikes would either go back up north, or they would go back across Lincoln. And it had become a very dangerous situation. Some of that stuff was happening after dark, and they were not paying any attention to speed limit signs, personal safety of the residents. People on horseback were getting harassed. A personal friend of mine was surrounded by e-bikes in her personal car as she was heading out towards Lincoln. We've called Douglas County Sheriff over and over and over. They come in and do the obligatory 2 left turns and then go back out to Lincoln. Unless those guys land on the hood of a cruiser, nothing happens. So I called once on a motorized motorcycle running around in there. Sheriff came in, did a loop, took off. The bike was actively running around in there and you could hear him. So the sheriff came back, the deputy came back in when I called again, chased him down 3rd, went out to Lincoln, and then I don't know what happened, but I heard the bike run from him and I heard the sheriff turn on his siren and chase. So the amount of issues in the neighborhood are drastically reduced since the trailheads have been closed. Not opposed to, you know, a certain amount of traffic, but when we get 800 units up to the north, it's going to be a problem. Thanks for your time and letting us comment.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? Hang on, Karen. Karen, I promise we'll get back to you. You did ask to take care of questions. Ma'am, hang on, ma'am. We already heard from you. Excuse me, sorry. Let's give everybody a shot here. But public comment, I know we... Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else. Ms. Hickman, please come forward in case the board has any questions. And just for answering questions, board, we do have a member representative of the HOA who volunteered to answer any questions. Are there any questions for Ms. Hickman?
Well, again, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you to all of the citizens who have taken time to be with us today. I know that this isn't the most convenient time to be here, and you're sacrificing your personal time to be here, so thank you for that. We do appreciate hearing it. I'm struggling on a number of levels, and I think the first is just going back to the legal framework. And I guess I would ask our council and maybe the HOA representative, is this even a legal party in interest to be able to enter into any sort of agreement with the county? We heard some testimony about their charter. I have not seen their charter.
Yeah, so they're not a covenant-based HOA. That is to say they don't have authority written into the deeds of the individuals who are members of the Grandview Estates. That's not, but they are a group that we could contract with. So although they aren't able to represent them, there are people who voluntarily participate, while there are also people who are in this room who may not voluntarily participate. We do have the ability to grant this license.
So do they have the authority to represent the entire community with regard to this particular issue?
No, they don't represent the entire community. It's voluntary, so they only represent those that voluntarily agree to be a part of it. But the license, they are a party we could contract with.
Well, maybe we could, but it doesn't sound like we should. If they don't have something in their charter that makes it clear they represent the entire community with regard to land use interests, I would be very concerned about the county entering into a contract. The second issue that I have is generally public roads are not gateable. These are public roads that are paid for with citizen tax dollars. These are trailheads, no matter how recently they've been established, were established for the public interest. There are exceptions to that. But what's very persuasive to me as chairman of it and founder of our Wildfire Action Collaborative is restricting access for emergencies. And I think we just heard from a gentleman that has spent his life protecting citizens from potential danger. The idea that somebody just has a key and will show up if there's an issue is silly. Because we have heard time and time again that a wildfire is seconds. If you don't have an immediate response time, it is very, very problematic for a neighborhood. So I don't like that from an access standpoint. What is persuasive to me is that, and I was a planning commissioner before I was a commissioner, this is a community that is very different than the adjacent neighborhoods. Grandview Estates is special. It's rural. A lot of you have spent your entire lives there, and you've invested everything into your homes and your properties. And I really believe that we need to honor and respect your right to have your property as you see fit and your neighborhood to reflect the culture and character that you invested in. But in my mind, I'm not opposed to a gated community. I live in a gated community. I think it's really nice to have that. But that's part of the structure of my neighborhood. I'm not trying to go outside of what's before the board today, but in my mind, the solution is to privatize, become a neighborhood that does have a dedicated HOA with contract authority, and then if you choose as a community to gate, then you do that. But right now, these are public roads, public trails. So I guess I'm struggling on a lot of levels with this. I don't like the current rubric, and certainly would not want to close trailheads in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Ms. Hickman?
I do have a question, and it's, so there's 2 trailheads that have been closed, but there's others like First Street that are open.
Fully open, yes.
Can you just speak to the value of the closing the 2 while leaving the others open?
Well, the value of closing the 2 is because as these youth gathered from within our community and outside of our community, they were using those 2 trailheads to evade law enforcement as they went through adjacent communities onto even the Belford South Metro District, Highway 470, and Chambers Road. So by eliminating those 2 trailheads, that's what cut down significantly on this illegal off-road activity, and also cut down on calls into Douglas County Sheriff's Office so that they could use those resources for actual crime versus responding to our residents' complaint about these illegal off-road vehicles. And I have comments about the fire protection and then even our legality as an HOA. So as far as the...
Hang on, Ms. Hickman.
I'm sorry.
Please respond to prompts and questions from the board. Any further questions for Ms. Hickman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to hear from Ms. Hickman on those 2 issues if you have some insights for us.
I do. So initially, South Metro Fire and Rescue was not involved with the county or the HOA. So when those issues arose, we worked very closely with Assistant Fire Marshal Gleason from South Metro Fire to ensure that there was definite access at the 2nd and 3rd Street trailheads to those 2 fire hydrants, but their preferred access point is a fire hydrant that is at First Street, where there's a large cul-de-sac, and they can easily refill their tenders and fire trucks. Now, they assured me, first of all, initially, before we got involved with this issue, there was no mitigation of the entire buffer on our north boundary. It was full of weeds and tall grasses. So we had reached out to the Belford South Metro District to get it mitigated, and we didn't get any response. But Assistant Fire Marshal Gleason reached out, and so they immediately, a couple of days later, mitigated the entire north buffer where these trailheads exist. And then they recently also planted landscaping and irrigation, and then they've put in additional trail signage on that path. And today, both residents from both sides of the community are utilizing those trailheads. And what is ironic, when I first started working with South Metro Fire and Rescue, they did not even have the location of those 3 fire hydrants on their schema when they took over administration for the towns of Parker and the towns of Castle Rock. I had to take photos of the location of those fire hydrants, and they hadn't even been maintained since they were installed in 2020. And then as far as our legitimacy as an HOA, we are very similar. We're a non-common interest HOA. We have bylaws. We are registered as a nonprofit with the state. We file tax returns with the IRS. And in fact, the board, Commissioner Teal, you remember Parkerview Estates where you worked with the Bacons? Okay, we're organized exactly like the Bacons. We're also a non-common interest HOA, and you allowed their HOA to have the authority to enter into and change your zoning resolutions to allow expanded business in rural residential, large lot, and ag.
So just a couple points of clarity for my colleagues. South Metro Fire is not in Castle Rock. The Castle Rock Fire Service is a municipal fire service and run under the town of Castle Rock. And secondly, I really think it's important to point out correct the record with the Bacons. It was where the Bacons, in a very similar HOA, wanted county to take authority to allow home occupations to persist despite under county regulation, despite any sort of regulation with an HOA. So just wanted to make sure that that was clarified for the records for my colleagues. Any other questions for Ms. Hickman? Ms. Hickman, I'm afraid your microphone has been turned off for a reason. There has been no question prompted.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any additional questions.
Very good. Ms. Hickman, if you could please take your seat. Excuse me, Commissioner, any further questions for Ms. Hickman?
Actually, I do, and it pertains to the structure of the HOA. What kind of notice was given to the community before the fences went up, before today's hearing? Maybe even from our own county. That could be a good question. And then tell me about the HOA. Are there regular elections? Is there an election every year, every other year? And what's the participation from voters?
Is my mic on? Thank you. So I'd like to first correct, when I talk about plan administration that South Metro Fire and Rescue took over for the town of Park.
Ms. Hickman, if you could, you have been given a question by a member of the board. If you could please be so kind as to answer that question.
So let's see. So yes.
Do you need the commissioner to restate the question, ma'am?
No, we hold elections biannually, and paid members who pay their dues or participate in the election. We just had one in January. We have an HOA meeting, and the meeting that many of these people did not attend last April was where this issue was, a year ago, April now, was where this issue was discussed. We sent out a community-wide survey. We posted to all 255 residents via the USPS Rural Route Postal Service, which is how all of our mail is delivered. We posted initially a lot on our closed community Facebook page until the rhetoric and the misinformation that was being posted by the opposition became too much to handle. And then as our volunteers and myself personally were retaliated against, with free speech and things like that, and even glass strewn all over my property on numerous occasions so that my dogs would be deliberately hit, we scaled back again from doing any further communication on that closed Facebook page. And what I have here today is the most recent damage that occurred at the trailhead, and this is from a very angry individual at the 3rd Street trailhead. And then I also want to show, well, at the end of 3rd Street,
Let me pause you for a second.
Okay.
So the question I have for you, how many of those, so you said about 250 citizens total?
250 citizens should have received the postcard.
Help me understand, so what percentage of that 250 are dues-paying members of the HOA?
Well, at that point, I don't know. They didn't have to be dues paying.
Currently?
Currently, we're in the process of getting dues. So we've had as high as many as 80 paid dues. And this year, we just solicited, and they're coming in rapidly. So we have a lot of community support. The reason a lot of people didn't testify in support of us today was because of the fact they were fearful of retaliation from this opposition group.
So you're saying 80 out of 250 are actively participating with the HOA in terms of membership?
Yeah, it varies from year to year, depending on the dues payments.
Okay,
Yes.
that is not a majority, ma'am.
No, it is not a majority, but
Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any further questions for Ms. Hickman? All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may take your seat. All right. Let's turn to questions. Any questions for staff from the board? Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was referenced in public testimony, action by the town of Parker regarding this issue or something very nearby, but I wasn't able to catch from the person, the member of the public that was testifying to it, exactly what that was. Do you know about action from the town of Parker?
So when the HOA originally reached out to contemplate the closures of all 3 trailheads, Town of Parker's position was, and they have that right of way on that north side of First Street, Town of Parker's position was that they wanted that trailhead to remain open. And that was a kind of a criteria or a town policy to maintain those connections between communities.
Okay, so that's why First Street is open and these 2 before us today are closed? Or that's why First Street is open? Is
That's
because
correct.
the town of Parker said, this isn't a traditional HRA, this is town of Parker property, and we're not doing that.
It's not Town of Parker property. However, the Town of Parker was the land use authority for not only the annexation of that area, but the approval of those townhomes and everything on that development. And they had authority to enter into an agreement with the HOA, just like we did, and they chose not to.
Okay, that's good information, thank you.
Further questions for staff from the board?
I'm done.
So just to clarify, actually, I don't know, I think my colleague's question clarified for me, because I know one of the members of the public who spoke was concerned with the county's authority to the area directly to the north, and I think we've just made that clear. That is the town of Parker.
That is correct, and I think the gentleman that came up to me during the recess, we clarified some things, which is during the original subdivision, Grandview Estates did extend north of the boundary that I showed on my slide. However, since annexation has occurred, that landmass is now part of the town of Parker and no longer under the jurisdiction of the county.
All right, okay. Hey, folks, let's keep crosstalk down. Okay, board, any further questions for Zeke? I have none either. All right, thanks, Zeke. Appreciate it. Okay, board, we do have a license agreement between the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners and the Grandview Estates Homeowners Association before us for approval. What action would we like to take?
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I will make a motion to deny a license agreement between the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners and the Grandview Estates Homeowners Association, and I wish to speak in favor of that.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
For purpose of discussion, I will second the motion.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Discussion, Commissioner Layton.
You know, I think it comes down to one word, which is leadership. And I really do applaud both Ms. Hickman and really every member that showed up today for your willingness to try to lead your community. Leadership requires a lot of things, and I know I do that imperfectly every day. But I'm not persuaded that this particular HOA has any authority whatsoever to engage in a legal contract with the county. And I know that if I was one of the 160 people that does not pay dues and is not involved in the HOA at all, I'd be real upset that somebody was out there trying to close a public trail. What I do support is get organized. I mean, I think leadership requires buy-in from your entire community in Grandview Estates. If you want that kind of authority for an HOA, I think you got to get organized as an HOA and then have that built into your charter so that your representatives can engage in a legal contract with the county. Notice, votes, greater engagement from all neighbors, not just 90 people, I think is probably pretty basic to making sure the governance of a community goes well. But that's just me. Governance is best that is closest to the people. I love when neighborhoods get together and work together. It just sounds like to me we're putting the cart before the horse.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm really glad everyone came out today to let your voice be heard. This clearly has been an issue going on within the community for some time. And while I do appreciate the HOA's willingness to maintain the area and is looking out for the best interest of the community, it seems like the community itself is in turmoil over to what best course to take. And since the community is in turmoil among themselves, it even seems like the community is in turmoil of itself in terms of, it seems like some people moved there many years ago and some people moved there just recently, almost because they didn't like the whole very strong HOA, very strong kind of center municipal governance over the community. And we're looking for kind of that more rural, independent living lifestyle. So there is a division within the community itself, and it sounds like the fences that did go up, the two that did go up, have created heartburn that necessarily wasn't there before, without necessarily solving all the problems, because there still is access to the community. It's not a gated community even today. And so given the public roads that are on all sides, it is hard for me as a county commissioner to build the wall between one public road and another public road, and one public trail and another public right-of-way. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to speak in favor of the motion. Generally speaking, I get that the law may give us the authority to extend or even allow this kind of licensing, but generally speaking, I'm opposed to this as a county power. I'm not a fan of the county dividing our neighborhoods. And I get it. There are some who think that's the right thing to do. But right off the bat, philosophically, I'm a no. And unfortunately, I haven't heard anything to turn me into a yes, to extend this license agreement. I think my colleague made a very good point. There does not seem to be a good consensus within the community in favor of extending this license agreement. I am not hearing consensus from the community. We get to a point where the community has consensus. I am willing to listen, but I'm not hearing that consensus right now. Generally speaking, I am not a fan of putting up barriers between our communities. I get on the north end of that fence line is the town of Parker. I live in the town of Castle Rock, and yet I am a county commissioner, okay? So I'm not a big fan of saying this is county, this is not county. Well, unless it's Arapahoe County, then I'll be happy to put up a fence and maybe a machine gun nest. But when we're talking about our own municipalities and our own communities, I am generally going to start as a no to put up any kind of barrier. And so I am not hearing anything compelling for me. I appreciate the commentary on public safety. I got to tell you guys, and I know we got members of our sheriff's department here in the room, and y'all just got to get tough for a second while I say this. That is the job of the sheriff's office. There is an elected sheriff. He was just in this room. If you believe his operation needs to be enhanced, you guys need to talk to him. You need to talk to the individuals assigned to him who handle law enforcement in your area. I'm not going to put up physical infrastructure to aid in public safety unless I got the sheriff standing right there, or the undersheriff, or one of his commanders telling me that is the best thing in the interest of public safety. That's not me telling you you're wrong, but that's me saying that's who I want to listen to, telling me what it makes for good public safety. So I come back to the beginning. I speak in favor of the motion. I do not find it a compelling reason to extend this license agreement. Further discussion? Gentlemen, there is a motion and a second. If there is no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I did not hear any opposed. The motion carries, and the license agreement is denied. Thank you, folks. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Turning to commissioner comments.
I don't have any additional commissioner comments other than just the distinct pleasure that the citizens joined us today. Always thankful for additional input on ways we could make our county better.
Folks, if we could please keep it down. I understand if some of you would like to leave, but we still have additional business going on, so if you could please keep it down. If you do wish to depart, please don't let us stop you. Commissioner, any commissioner comments?
Yeah, it has come, I mean, I did mention wildfire earlier, and we do a tremendous amount of work really every day on wildfire. But we do have very smart people in our emergency management departments and elsewhere that have been warning us, and we have been on top of it. Just want the people of Douglas County, especially when it comes to throwing out cigarettes, when it comes to planting fireworks for 4th of July. This is the driest year on record, I believe, facing the people of Douglas County. We have a lot of tall grass. We have a lot of dead grass. We're on top of it every day, but we do need to be wary of the summer that is ahead, facing all of us, and we as a community really need to come together and focus on our ability to fight fires. This board's done tremendous work in the area, especially investing in our own county-owned helicopter, and is doing much more on a very daily basis. Other than that, we had a tremendous event, and frankly, I missed it, but the link on demand being expanded into Parker just last week, that was a fantastic event, is what I heard. And so the whole northern part of Douglas County will have the free rideshare program to be able to get to from one point to another across northern Douglas County, free of charge. And in Highlands Ranch, I can speak, has been tremendously successful. So that's a great thing that happened just this last week. And then hopefully some big news ahead for our county fair and rodeo here in the next coming weeks in terms of entertainment, which will be a lot of fun for the people of Douglas County.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. My comments, gentlemen, I recently fielded a question that came through our email over the weekend, actually. And one of the questions was a resident asking if we were considering a building moratorium. I did have to say that at this time we are not considering a building moratorium in light of, as you said, Commissioner, the drought that we've been under all winter, and how we are hearing about neighboring communities experiencing water shortage and water resource concerns. Part of my answer, and that I do want to share, is just reminding everybody, Douglas County government does not have a water department. Yes, we certainly have a water commission who is taking on these heavy analysis and heavy concerns with a water study for 2025, but we don't manage water ourselves. We do rely on the water districts here within the county, though, that are specifically formed in order to provide water to our communities. And so part of my answer, and colleagues, of course, I absolutely am open to being corrected right now, but our policy is that we rely on those water districts to tell us if there is any water availability or not for any development that goes through. We refer to it, and people who will watch our land use meetings will hear it referred to as a will serve letter, which we keep checking back with as development occurs for the water district to say, yes, this development can be supported. In the instance that, and I don't recall running into a situation where a water district said, no, we do not have the resources to supply a neighborhood once that initial commitment is made. But if they do, under our policy set, well, our answer has to be no. If there is not enough water resources to provide for the new neighborhood. So in many ways, we have the brakes built in the system to deal with our current drought situation. It's also worth noting that one of the benefits of our existing water plan study is that most of our water districts actually do have enough water for current needs, even with the drought, because most of them do have a groundwater resource. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a big fan of, oh, well, if the groundwater's okay, we can just go nuts. I think we do need to have some belt tightening all around. We do need to, we probably all are living in water districts that have some variety of water rationing going on, or at least water restriction. Being a Castle Rock resident, I've been living with a restricted water plan schedule for almost 30 years now. So water or a building moratorium, no. I don't believe we're contemplating that at this time. Responding to our water districts as development occurs, I do believe, colleagues, I can speak for all of us, that yes, we are doing that here in the county. Is there any other business for the board today?
Not today, Mr. Chair.
I have no other business either. Turning to the county manager for the county manager report. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. That concludes our business meeting. Our next business meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. We are adjourned.